Easy with that razor, old-timer. Sergeant Ethan Cole leaned away from the blade and smiled at his own reflection. If that hand slips, I am charging you for the scar. Laughter moved through Mercer's barbershop. 3 young soldiers sat near the front window. Tyler Brooks stood behind them with his phone held upright, filming the thin, white-haired barber behind Ethan's chair. Walter Mercer did not laugh. The straight razor hovered less than an inch from Ethan's jaw. Walter's hand trembled. Not enough to drop the blade. Not enough to make him dangerous. Just a faint, steady vibration that caught the morning light and made the polished steel shimmer. Ethan watched it in the mirror. Maybe we should finish this with clippers. Another laugh came from the window. Walter folded the razor with one clean metallic click. My hands only shake when things are quiet, he said. The laughter thinned. Ethan turned slightly beneath the white cape. What is that supposed to mean? It means you moved. Walter placed the razor on a folded towel. His fingers still trembled as he aligned the handle with the edge of the counter. Nothing in Mercer's barbershop was expensive. The leather chairs were cracked. The red and blue pole outside had faded almost white. A ceiling fan turned slowly above framed photographs of first haircuts, retirement ceremonies, and high school baseball teams. The shop had stood on the same road outside Fort Liberty for 42 years. Walter had cut the hair of privates before their first deployment and colonels before their last formation. There were no medals on the walls, no framed citations, no photographs of Walter in uniform, only a small wooden plaque half hidden behind a dusty shelf. Staff Sergeant Daniel Reeves noticed it from beside the coat rack. Daniel had entered the shop 10 minutes earlier and had not joined the laughter. He was 38, broad across the shoulders, with the patient watchfulness of a man who had learned that the quietest detail in a room was sometimes the most important. The plaque was dark with age. A crack ran through one corner. Most of the lettering had faded. One line remained visible. To Switchblade. The man whose hands never stopped. Daniel stepped closer. Walter saw him in the mirror. Leave it where it is. Daniel stopped immediately. Tyler moved his phone toward the plaque. Switchblade. The word changed the room. Walter's fingers stopped against the towel. The ceiling fan continued to turn. Electric clippers buzzed at the empty second station. A helicopter passed somewhere beyond the road, its rotor beat rattling the old sign above the door. Walter looked toward the sound before anyone else did. He did not flinch. He listened until it faded. Ethan noticed Tyler's camera and smiled again. He had the look of a man who no longer knew whether he was making the joke or serving it. Is that your old barber nickname? Walter reached for the cape around Ethan's neck and straightened one corner. People called me many things. Tyler tapped his screen. A small red symbol appeared. He had started a live stream. Daniel saw it. So this is Mercer's Barbershop, Tyler told the phone. Home of the legendary Switchblade. Walter looked directly at the lens. Turn that off. Tyler gave an easy shrug. We are not hurting anybody. Not yet. The answer was quiet enough that Tyler almost missed it. Ethan leaned back. Come on, Mr. Mercer. You cannot keep a plaque like that in a public shop and expect nobody to ask. Walter picked up the clippers. Sit straight. Ethan obeyed, though his smile remained. The motor came alive. Walter guided the clippers along the side of Ethan's head. The trembling disappeared. Daniel watched the hand that had shaken around the razor move with complete control. Each pass ended at the same clean line. Each tool returned to the same position. Walter never turned his back fully to the front door. He used the long mirror to check the street, the rear hallway, and every person inside the shop. Ethan watched him through the reflection. You are steady now. I am working. So the shaking is an act? Walter switched off the clippers. The silence came so suddenly that Tyler lowered the phone. No, Walter brushed loose hair from Ethan's shoulder. It is the part one cannot control. For the first time, Ethan's smile faded. Tyler looked toward the plaque again. Then what does Switchblade mean? Walter reached for a smaller clipper guard. It means the haircut is not finished. A few soldiers laughed, but more carefully this time. Daniel looked past the plaque. Behind the dusty shelf, a black and white photograph had been turned face down against the wall. Only the edge of the frame showed. Tyler noticed Daniel looking at it. He stepped toward the photograph. Walter's voice stopped him. Do not touch that. Tyler froze with his fingertips inches from the frame. Walter did not raise his voice. He did not need to. Tyler lowered his hand. You have a lot of rules for a barber shop. Most rules exist because someone once believed he did not need one. Ethan glanced between Walter and the hidden photograph. Who was in it? Walter resumed cutting. Men who do not belong to your audience. The live stream comments moved quickly across Tyler's screen. Daniel could not read them from across the room, but he saw the viewer number climbing. Tyler smiled toward the phone. People think you are making this up. Walter's eyes met his in the mirror. People who are not here do not get a vote. A vehicle horn sounded outside. Walter's gaze shifted to the front window. Nothing unusual. A delivery truck passed. The room relaxed. Daniel did not. He had noticed how quickly Walter had measured the sound. Not startled. Located. Evaluated. Dismissed. Daniel looked back at the plaque. Beneath the main line were 5 faded signatures. The last one remained readable. Samuel Holloway. Daniel felt something cold settle behind his ribs. His father had spoken that name only twice. Both times after midnight. Both times after enough silence had passed that old memories no longer stayed in their assigned rooms. Captain Samuel Holloway. A reconnaissance officer during Vietnam. A team sent into a valley that did not appear on public maps. Daniel had never heard the full story. His father would only say that 6 men entered and 6 men came out because one of them refused to stop moving. Daniel looked at Walter. Did Samuel Holloway give you that plaque? Walter's clippers stopped. Ethan saw the old man's face in the mirror. Something had changed behind the pale blue eyes. You knew him? Daniel asked. Walter placed the clippers down. I cut his hair. Ethan gave a small laugh. There it is. Mystery solved. Daniel did not look at him. My father served with Holloway. Walter's eyes moved toward Daniel's name tape. Reeves. Daniel nodded. Colonel James Reeves. Walter looked away. The tremor returned to his right hand. Daniel saw it grow stronger. My father was in that valley, was he not? Walter picked up the razor but did not open it. That is his story. He never told it. Then he made a choice. Daniel looked at the hidden photograph. Or he made a promise. Walter's fingers closed around the razor. Before he could answer, the sound came through the front glass. A high, thin squeal. Rubber fighting pavement. Walter turned toward the window before anyone else moved. The razor clicked shut in his hand. Outside, a motorcycle slid across the intersection. The rider separated from the machine and came to rest beside the curb. For one suspended second, the barbershop held its breath. Then the young soldiers moved at once. Chairs scraped. Someone shouted. Tyler swung his phone toward the window. Walter did not shout. He placed the razor on the towel, reached beneath the register, and removed a faded canvas pouch. By the time Daniel reached the sidewalk, Walter was already kneeling beside the rider. The young man wore civilian clothes, but a Fort Liberty identification card was clipped to his belt. He was conscious. His breathing came fast and shallow. A broken section of the motorcycle had caught against the fabric near his upper leg. Blood darkened the pavement beneath him. Ethan crouched and then stopped. The confidence he had carried inside the shop vanished. What do we do? Walter opened the canvas pouch. Call emergency services. His voice was low and exact. Give them the intersection. Tell them the rider is conscious and has a serious leg injury. Stay on the line. Ethan took out his phone. His hand shook. Walter looked at him. Sergeant. Ethan met his eyes. One task. Complete it. Ethan nodded. He called. Tyler stood several feet away with his live stream still running. Walter pointed toward the shop. End the video. Bring clean towels. Tyler hesitated. Walter's gaze hardened. Now. Tyler ended the broadcast and ran. Daniel moved beside the rider. How can I help? Keep him looking at you. Do not let him try to stand. Daniel knelt near the man's shoulders. What is your name? Michael. All right, Michael. I am Daniel. Stay with me. Walter examined the area without moving the metal caught against the fabric. He opened the old folding knife from the canvas pouch. One click. The trembling stopped. The hand became completely still. Walter used the blade only to cut clean cloth into the shape he needed. He closed it immediately and placed it beside the pouch. Tyler returned with towels. Walter directed pressure around the injury without disturbing the embedded material. He spoke to Michael the entire time. Not about blood. Not about pain. Where are you stationed? Fort Liberty. What unit? Michael answered. Family nearby? My wife. What is her name? Rachel. Good. You keep talking to Daniel. Rachel will want the full story from you. Michael's breathing slowed. Ethan remained on the emergency call, repeating information exactly as Walter gave it. The soldiers who had laughed inside now formed a quiet boundary around the scene, keeping traffic and bystanders back. Tyler put his phone in his pocket. He did not take it out again. The sirens grew louder. Walter watched Michael's face, pulse and breathing. His hands remained steady. Ethan looked down at them. They stopped. Walter did not look up. What? Your hands. Ethan swallowed. They are not shaking. Walter adjusted the clean cloth by less than an inch. I told you. They only shake when things are quiet. The ambulance stopped at the curb. 2 emergency medical technicians moved toward them with equipment. Walter gave a short summary and stepped back as soon as they took over. The older technician examined the placement around the injury. You kept the object stable and held pressure without moving it. Walter nodded. He did not need more damage. The technician looked at the canvas pouch and the closed folding knife. Medical background. Walter wiped his hands on a clean towel. Long time ago. The technician studied him. Then he looked toward the old sign above the barbershop. Mercer's. Military. Walter closed the pouch. Just help him get home. The technician nodded once. We will. Michael was lifted onto the stretcher. Before the ambulance doors closed, he reached toward Walter. Thank you. Walter touched 2 fingers to the edge of the stretcher. Tell Rachel yourself. The doors shut. The ambulance pulled away. For several seconds, no one moved. The street became ordinary again with almost insulting speed. Cars passed. The traffic light changed. A helicopter crossed the sky beyond the buildings. Walter stood at the curb holding the canvas pouch. The tremor returned. First in his fingers, then in his wrist. The pouch shook lightly against his palm. Ethan stared at it. Inside the shop, he had seen weakness. Outside, he had seen control. Now he understood they were the same hands. Daniel approached Walter. You have done that before. Walter walked toward the shop. At my age, everything has happened before. Daniel followed. That is not an answer. It is the one you are getting. The young soldiers re-entered the barbershop in silence. Ethan still wore the cape around his shoulders. One side of his hair remained unfinished. Tyler stood near the door. I deleted the live stream. Walter placed the pouch beneath the register. Did you save a copy? No, good. Tyler looked toward the hidden photograph. I should not have recorded you. Walter locked the drawer. No, Tyler waited for more. Walter gave him none. Daniel stepped toward the dusty shelf. My father deserves to know you are alive. Walter looked at him sharply. Your father has a life. He has spent most of it wondering what happened to the 6th man. Walter's jaw tightened. Daniel did not touch the photograph. Let me see it. No, I am not asking for the internet. Daniel looked toward Tyler. I am asking as James Reeves's son. The ceiling fan clicked overhead. Walter's right hand rested beside the folded razor. The tremor continued. Finally, he crossed to the wall. He lifted the photograph from its hook and turned it around. 6 young men stood beneath the blade of a helicopter in heavy rain. Their uniforms were dark with mud. Their faces looked exhausted beyond their years. Captain Samuel Holloway stood near the center with one arm in a sling. James Reeves stood beside him. At the far left was 19-year-old Walter Mercer. Thin, unspeaking, holding the same folding knife. Someone had written one word beneath him. Switchblade. Ethan stood from the chair. You were a medic. Walter set the photograph on the counter. I carried the medical bag. Daniel looked at his father's face. He was 20? 21. He looks afraid. He was. Daniel glanced at Walter. My father never admits he was afraid. Most men wait until everyone who saw it is gone. Tyler looked at the knife locked beneath the counter glass. So Switchblade was real. Walter's expression hardened. Samuel Holloway was real. James Reeves was real. Thomas Caldwell was real. He looked directly at Tyler. The name mattered less than the men. Ethan stepped closer to the photograph, but kept his hands at his sides. What happened in Ash Creek? Walter looked toward Daniel. Your father can tell you. He will not. That does not make it mine to tell. Daniel studied the 5 signatures on the plaque. Then tell us only what belongs to you. Walter looked at the folding knife. The blade remained closed. The medical bag went down a slope during a storm. He spoke without cinematic grandeur. No dramatic pause. Only facts. Our radio harness broke. Captain Holloway was trapped under equipment. Your father injured his ankle. Caldwell's pack frame split. Walter touched one finger to the glass above the knife. That was the tool I still had. Ethan looked confused. A pocket knife saved the team? No, Walter's eyes moved across the 6 faces. Men saved the team. He pointed toward James Reeves. Your father carried Holloway when Holloway could not walk. He pointed toward Caldwell. Thomas carried the radio after the frame tore into his shoulder, then toward the others. Each man carried something that belonged to someone else. Daniel looked at young Walter. And you? I cut what kept them trapped. The shop became quiet. Walter's voice lowered. Straps, canvas, boot leather, a damaged harness. Anything that stopped the next man from moving. Ethan looked toward the plaque. The man whose hands never stopped. Walter nodded once. Holloway wrote that. What did he call you? Walter looked at the word beneath the photograph. He said I opened that knife faster than men finished asking for help. Tyler lowered his eyes. I thought it meant you were dangerous. Walter's gaze rested on him. Tools do not decide what kind of man holds them. The words landed between Tyler and his dark phone screen. Daniel took out his phone. Walter watched him. Do not. My father is 80. He earned his peace. He has not had peace. Daniel's voice remained respectful, but firm. He has spent 50 years believing you died, without letting him say thank you. Walter looked at James Reeves in the photograph. Thanking me would not change what happened. No, Daniel unlocked the phone. But knowing you lived might change what happens next. Walter turned toward the front window. The faded Barber pole rotated in the sunlight. Finally, he gave one small nod. Daniel called. The line connected after 3 rings. An older voice answered. Daniel. Dad, I am at Mercer's Barbershop. A pause. Near Fort Liberty. Yes. Daniel looked at Walter. There is someone here. The old voice changed. Not dramatically. It simply became alert. Who? Daniel held the phone closer. Walter Mercer. Nothing came from the speaker. Ethan looked toward Daniel. Tyler stood completely still. Walter's fingers trembled beside the photograph. Then Colonel James Reeves spoke. Ask him what Holloway said when the helicopter came through the ring. Daniel repeated the question. Walter closed his eyes. The answer came without hesitation. He said, do not waste the ride. A breath crossed the phone. Then another. James Reeves spoke quietly. Switchblade. Walter opened his eyes. Hello, James. You disappeared. I opened a barber shop. That is not what I meant. I know. The old colonel laughed once. The sound broke near the end. Are your hands still shaking? Walter looked at them. Yes. Then you are still carrying it. Walter did not answer. James continued. Thomas is at Fort Liberty today. Walter's expression tightened. No, he shouldn't know. He has a briefing. He has had 50 years of briefings. James. Walter, you do not get to bring every man home and then decide none of them may come back for you. The shop went silent. Walter looked at the photograph. Samuel Holloway's face remained beneath the cracked glass. You all built lives, Walter said. That was the point. Yes. Then let us show you what your work became. Walter placed one hand on the counter. The tremor moved through his fingers. I do not want a ceremony. You will not get one. James paused. You may get Thomas. The call ended several minutes later. Daniel did not contact command headquarters. His father did. The barbershop returned to a quieter version of normal. Walter told Ethan to sit. The haircut was still unfinished. He switched on the clippers. The hum filled the room. His hand steadied as soon as the work began. Ethan watched him through the mirror. Mr. Mercer. Walter cleaned the line above his ear. Yes. I leave for my first deployment in 3 weeks. Walter had already known. The fresh regulation cut. The expensive watch worn too tightly. The way Ethan filled silence before anyone could ask whether he was nervous. Where? Ethan told him. Walter nodded. I kept making jokes because everybody was watching. I know. You knew? Men who are not afraid do not work that hard to look fearless. Ethan lowered his eyes. Were you afraid in the valley? Walter changed the clipper guard. Every minute. You did not look afraid. I had work. Walter guided the clippers along the back of Ethan's head. Fear becomes smaller when you give your hands a task. Ethan looked at Walter's reflection. That is why you gave me the emergency call. You needed one job. I almost froze. But you did not. Walter brushed loose hair from the cape. Remember that before you decide, courage belongs only to men who look calm. The afternoon light shifted across the floor. Customers came and went. None knew why the old photograph now sat on the counter instead of facing the wall. Walter did not tell them. At 4:15, a dark government sedan stopped across the street. No police escort. No second vehicle. No crowd. A uniformed driver remained inside. Major General Thomas Caldwell stepped onto the sidewalk alone. 2 stars rested on each shoulder. He stood beneath the faded Mercer sign for several seconds before opening the door. The bell above it gave a small metallic ring. Walter looked up from Ethan's final trim. Caldwell saw the old barber shirt, the trembling hand, the photograph, the knife behind the glass. His face changed, not into shock, into recognition. Switchblade. The name crossed the shop quietly. Walter switched off the clippers. Thomas. Caldwell removed his cap. He looked at the young soldiers and then back at Walter. You told us nobody stayed trapped. Walter placed the clippers on the counter. Some did. Caldwell's jaw tightened. Not because you stopped trying. Walter looked toward Samuel Holloway's face. Caldwell approached the photograph. He did not touch it. Holloway kept this copy. He mailed it to the shop. He said you would hide it. I did not hide it. You turned it toward the wall. It was not for strangers. Caldwell nodded. That sounds like you. Ethan watched through the mirror. The Major General looked at the folding knife. Still the same one. Walter opened the display case and took it out. The hand holding it trembled. He placed the knife on the counter between them. Caldwell looked at the worn handle. You cut me out of that radio harness with this. You were complaining too much to be seriously injured. I was 20. You talk like you were 12. A faint smile reached Caldwell's face. Then it disappeared. He looked at Walter's shaking fingers. We thought you were dead. I was cutting hair. For 42 years. It takes practice. Caldwell stood straighter. Walter saw the movement and shook his head. No ceremony. There is no ceremony. No speech. I did not bring one. Caldwell brought his heels together. The shop became still. Daniel Reeves rose from the waiting bench. Ethan remained in the chair, watching through the mirror. Tyler lowered his eyes. Caldwell raised his right hand. The salute was precise. Private. Held by a man who remembered being 21, wet, afraid, and trapped beneath a broken harness. Walter did not immediately return it. Thomas. Caldwell kept his hand raised. This is not for a legend. Walter's eyes narrowed. It is for the man who gave frightened people something to do with their hands. The tremor in Walter's fingers continued. He looked at Daniel, at Ethan, at Tyler's dark phone, at the 5 signatures on the plaque. Then Walter raised his hand. It moved slowly because of age. It shook because the room was quiet. But the salute remained unmistakable. Caldwell lowered his hand only after Walter did. No one applauded. The ceiling fan turned. A car passed outside. Somewhere beyond the road, a helicopter moved toward Fort Liberty. Ethan stood from the chair. The cape remained fastened around his neck. Mr. Mercer. Walter looked at him through the mirror. I mocked your hands. Yes. I thought shaking meant you could not be trusted. Walter waited. Ethan took a breath. I was wrong to judge something I did not understand. Walter nodded once. Better. Ethan looked toward Caldwell. The general did not rescue him from the discomfort. Walter picked up the clippers. Sit down. Ethan returned to the chair. The haircut is still unfinished. The clippers came alive. Walter's hand became steady. Caldwell watched him finish the blend above Ethan's ear. You did that in the valley too, the general said. Walter kept working. Cut hair. Gave us ordinary tasks when the world stopped feeling ordinary. Daniel looked at him. What kind of tasks? Caldwell smiled faintly. He made James count batteries. He made me hold a torn strap. He made Holloway describe breakfast. Walter brushed hair from Ethan's neck. Men breathe better when they have something useful to say. Ethan watched Walter's reflection. You saved them from panic. Walter removed the cape. No. He shook the loose hair onto the floor. I kept them moving until they saved one another. Ethan reached for his wallet. Walter raised one hand. No charge. I would rather pay. Then bring back the man you are after deployment. Ethan stopped. Walter folded the cape. That will cover it. Ethan's throat moved. Yes, sir. Tyler stepped toward the counter. I deleted the live stream. Walter placed the razor beside the towel. Good. I also deleted the copy from my phone. Better. Tyler looked at the knife. I thought a story belonged to whoever recorded it. Walter met his eyes. A story belongs first to the people who paid for it. Tyler nodded. He put his phone away. Caldwell remained beside the photograph as the young soldiers prepared to leave. Ethan stopped at the door. Mr. Mercer. Walter looked up. When it gets quiet over there, what should I do? Walter considered him. Find the man beside you. Ethan waited. Give him one job. The young sergeant nodded. Then he stepped outside. Daniel followed after telling Walter his father would call again. Tyler left last. He held the door for an older customer entering with a cane. Walter noticed. He said nothing. Caldwell placed his cap beneath one arm. You could come to the base tomorrow. No, we could correct the record. No, there are people who should know what you did. The people who needed to know were there. Caldwell looked at the photograph. One of them is gone. Walter's eyes settled on Holloway. Yes. That does not erase the 5 who lived. No, Walter's voice lowered. But 5 lives do not cancel 1 death. Caldwell absorbed the words. Holloway never blamed you. I know. You blame yourself. Walter closed the display case. That is different. Caldwell looked around the barbershop. The photographs of children, veterans, and families covered the walls. You spent 42 years cutting the hair of men going out and coming home. Walter swept Ethan's hair into a neat pile. It is work. It is still service. Walter leaned the broom against the counter. Do not put a medal on everything useful. Caldwell smiled. I remember that too. At the door, the general paused. You brought us home. Walter looked down at the broom in his hand. Then live like it mattered. Caldwell came to attention one final time, but he did not salute. He only nodded. I have tried. He left. The sedan pulled away without ceremony. Walter stood alone beneath the turning fan. The shop had become quiet again. His hands trembled around the wooden broom handle. For years, he had turned the photograph toward the wall before closing. That evening, he carried it to the center shelf. He wiped the dust from the glass. Samuel Holloway, James Reeves, Thomas Caldwell, 3 other young men, and Walter at 19, holding the folding knife. He placed the plaque beneath it. To Switchblade, the man whose hands never stopped the old knife remained inside the display case. The blade closed, the handle worn smooth. Walter switched off the front lights. Only the small lamp above the photograph remained. His hand still shook. The past had not disappeared. Honor did not cure memory. Recognition did not return the dead. But for the first time in many years, Walter did not turn the photograph back toward the wall. Some hands shake because they are weak. Others shake because they remember every person they once refused to leave behind. And when someone still needs to come home, those hands remember exactly what to do.